visitor programs without diluting the meaning, and that way also generate local self-pride. And here again, the travelers return not with souvenirs alone, but with skills, tangible skills. Please welcome on stage the force behind Curtain Call Adventures, Miss Julie Kagti. Hello and welcome, ma'am.
Will somebody be presenting for me? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for all the organizers for having us all here. It's so nice to be part of a community. You know, when I first started out, I didn't know what I was doing was called sustainable tourism. But it's nice to belong to this platform. It's nice to be able to, collaborate sometimes. There's so many people here that I have actually worked with. Thank you so much for bringing us all together in this beautiful space today and for initiating this program. So Curtain Call Adventures. I would like to talk about curation from the curator's point of view. You know, today, when you put itineraries together, it's very important to balance both expectations of the artisan, the locals that you work with, along with your guests. Curtain Call Adventures started in 2017. You know, I grew up in Assam. I'm native from Assam, but I studied in Bombay. I spent a lot of my career out of Assam. And a lot of people used to ask me, we want to go on holiday, or we want to go to Northeast. I used to put them in touch with travel companies, but the itineraries were always very similar. It was waterfalls in Cherrapunji or the rhino in Kaziranga. Very little went beyond that. So I decided that, okay, why can't I look at doing something different with tourism in the northeast of India? Let me introduce people to rural experiences, immersive experiences, help them understand the culture, because everybody keeps saying we don't really know the culture of the Northeast. So we started doing that. And that's how the name came about, Curtain Call Adventures. It's looking at a way of life where the curtain is coming down on. The tribes are changing. The youth are changing. The way of life is changing there. So I wanted to focus on showing people who are interested in coming a way of life that traditions have followed over the years. And our focus is benefiting artisans and women's economy. That's how we started. As a travel curator, we're always very conscious of being respectful on cultures. How do we approach community? How do we get them to on board with us? Remember when, as a curator, one of the thumb rules of curation is that you must experience it yourself. You must be able to go spend time, you, your team, the people who are going to handle the guest. Because three things. You need to understand your product very well. You need to understand the nuances, the difficulties or limitations that the craftsmen, the local community also have. And also handhold them, because this is also relatively new for them, you know, to have guests coming home to see. And it does require some amount of hand-holding. The other thing, heritage. For me, coming from the Northeast, heritage has always been a very big part of my life. And I wanted my work to preserve that, somewhere work along preserving it. So when we take people there, or when we go and start talking to artisans and local communities, one of the things we do emphasize is, you know, an interest in developing programs that will benefit them and us, but importantly also keep traditions alive in the place. Once we start these conversations around traditions, what I've realized that happens is the communities themselves start looking at ways of how can they earn a living from it, you know. And I've seen success stories with youth across places of Arunachal, Tripura, Assam, a lot of women communities coming forward to be a part of the program. And lastly, the most important thing as a travel curator, because we're always looking for that wow moment for our clients, what brings that across is what people have said is deep connections that they get, you know, interacting with communities and also an awareness of another form of living, another way of living, the consciousness that actually you also, even like you, people living in the villages, also are looking at their children doing well. When they make those sort of connections is when we respectfully develop the cultural program. To me, the Northeast is a living cultural landscape. You know, if you see the picture, all these girls, each of them are a master craftsman before they get to the age of even 16 or 15. Why? Because they're helping their mothers, their aunts, you know, every time with the weaving. I call them memory keepers. Because one of the problems in the Northeast is we are very, very rich in culture. Very individual culture, diverse practices in medicine, clothing, weaving, accessories, food. But it's very fragile. There is no documentation, there's no history, nuances. It's all happening now. It's all been oral traditions. I call them all memory keepers. It passes from mother to daughter, father to son. Mother to daughter are things in the farming techniques, weaving techniques, medicine. Father to son are things like harvest festivals, you know, how we organize harvest festivals, how we chant for rain, some people do rain, or hunt, which is now changing form to become more ecology. The understanding, the coexisting with nature. All of these are oral practices that are being passed on. That's why it's very fragile. As a curator, to be conscious of this is very important. Second thing is the landscape itself. You know, the Northeast is very diverse, as most of you who visited the region would know. From the snow-capped mountains of the Himalayas, all the way down to the Assam, the fertile valleys of Assam. There's so much vegetation, there's so much wildlife. You know, India is home to about 1,300 orchid species, of which 800 is found in the Northeast. You know, it's that kind. And most of it is still not documented. They're still documenting, and they're still coming up with more. So in a landscape like this, in a cultural landscape like this, how do you plan tours? What do you do that is sustainable for the community, interesting for your clients, and you keep it real? Most of these traditions are facing a threat. Why? Because the youth are moving away. Because they also want a different kind of life. They want a more convenient way of life. They want better jobs. They're moving to the cities. Weavers, though they're still weaving. They're still making their baskets. But the skill has reduced. Why? Because in the village, they can only get money from, you know, the village, the other people in the village can afford to pay for things that can be made in about 2 days, 3 days. They cannot afford to pay for things that require a lot of skill. And the artisans don't have access to a market where they can sell things with a lot of skill. So the quality of skill has come down. The skill still exists. And that is actually quite a sad thing that's happening. The other thing is the climate itself. Because the climate changes, patterns, you know, forage patterns have changed. Seed banks are getting lost. And culture, you know, even the societies are figuring out what to do next. I just want to touch on one of our, so when we address all of this, what do we come up with? This is a wilderness retreat. It's a 6-day retreat in Assam over 2 destinations. Both destinations are based with communities that live around forest. One is Nameri and one is Kaziranga. We work with the communities to develop programs for them, for guests, which have 2 things. One are walks, cultural walks, forest walks, where naturalists accompany them and they understand products that grow there. Also, demonstrations and workshops. Very interestingly, a lot of people sign up for the medicine workshop, which is where the women actually go forage from the forest and what they use, when do they forage, what is it used for. It's becoming more popular, a lot of guests like that. Food, of course, is very big, both. Cooking, people learning to cook, people eating, all of that is very important. Crafts, we do. And these are what the communities suggest to us, and we work on that. We try and eco-cultural walks, storytelling, of course. That's where the connection happens. Maria's already touched a lot on it, so I'm not going to touch too much on that. And we try and keep, we are involved homestays, tea stays for people to stay in this. Craft is very big for communities living by the forest, because they depend a lot on, they forage. These are all communities that forage. They get a lot of natural fiber from there, or they grow fiber around there to make their craft. So things that we do with them is, of course, help them sell their product, to introduce them, workshops, tell their stories, and help them host festivals. So in Nameri, we helped the small community host the Divisa Gorgonia festival. Why do they want to have this festival? Because it's a place that doesn't have electricity. The roads are not in good condition. So when they asked us about it, so I said, why do you want to do this? They said, no, we want to be in Google Map. And we thought it's a good reason to help a community who wants to be on Google Map host a festival there. And craft plays a role, because part of the festival is doing workshops for people who come there. Food, like I said, is very big in different forms, and we encourage in all the states that we work in, all the 8 states that we work in, including Bhutan, Nepal, to a lot of food, both contemporary, rural food, and also with not just food like in eating or just cooking. It's also working in farms, fishing, things like that, foraging. Sorry, I think I skipped one. Yeah. Along with that, it's very important when you're putting an itinerary together to make sure that you give enough time to the guests to enjoy the nature also. They get downtime, then they are able to put the whole thing together. I've noticed more and more that guests like a combination of putting it together when we are working with these things. How do we protect culture and diversity together? Is we always kind of trying to find out forms of how we can, give them a contemporary expression, how we can help rural communities, especially artisans and women artist groups. Here in the picture is May. This is in Loktak. She lives near the Loktak Lake in Manipur. Manipur, Loktak Lake is a freshwater lake. There are a lot of freshwater lakes in the Northeast. And one of the biggest problems that we face in the Northeast is water hyacinth. So they're trying to develop products around there. You can see there we made pen stands to be given as souvenirs to clients. People who come on a textile tour to Manipur, we take them to see a lot of the traditional wear. One costume that you're all familiar with is the poloi, what they wear for their dance, that big skirt which you wear. So what we've decided, we innovated, is guests who come on the textile tour, we give them a little gift. And May makes it for us, so that with the poloi, we make it like a batwa, a small bag, which is a giveaway. So things like that, you adapt for the artisans to fit in to a contemporary scale, because a guest will not be able to buy that big skirt and take it back. They'll have no nuance with that. But a small bag, they always remember, and they keep that with them. Have we had, for the last years that I've been in business, what have we had? We have seen that there is more demand now from clients, or more requests rather, to have more immersive experiences added to our itineraries. Also, we've seen local businesses in villages increase. We've been able to support this. I do have the actual figures. If anybody's interested, do get in touch with me afterwards. I can show them to you or talk about it. Women-led initiatives. And this is across things, even simple things, we've been able to get storytelling, food, craft. Craft is a very big part of women-led initiatives in the Northeast, because, a lot of the craft, especially textile, is practiced by women. So getting them involved has always been very good. And I've always find that when women are involved, the village, they hold the family together. So they actually, it's the home that comes together. From there. So when you get to the woman and tell them, listen, this kind of food that you're cooking, this is good. Try expanding it. Keep to that. Go, practice more. Get more real with your food. She makes a big effort. So it's one person starts, the other one starts. It goes on, and that's how these things come together, and that's what happens. But there are also lots of challenges of working in the Northeast. One is we only work for 6 months, right? Because of the monsoon, we can't work beyond that. It still remains, though there's a lot of footfall, it still remains a lesser known destination. We get a lot of backpacking crowd, but the more well-heeled clientele who can actually spend more money or travel more, spend time with the villages, that is very limited. And that's a big challenge that we're trying to figure out how to deal with. Like I said, appeal to the clients is less. Rural infrastructure is also very poor. Electricity, water, things like that. So how do we do, I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly move to the video. How do we address it? One of the things in Curtain Call Adventures we've done, and Outlook Tourism partners with us on that, is put up a video competition. It's called Footprints in Sustainability. It's open to all people from the Northeast. It could be items or any activity directly or indirectly related to tourism. In the Northeast, we've had 2 festivals now. There are about 3 entries. There are 2 sections. You can send a video to us, which is between 5 minutes to 8 minutes, or a reel. I will show you one of those to just give you an idea of what those are. To me, youth is very important. Like I said, women initiatives are important. Awareness of youth in the destination is very important because it's their future. They have to decide what to do with it before it all dies out, or fades away, rather. And we looked at what youth can do. Every youth today has a camera phone in their phones. So they could use that. A lot of them have shot on their cameras, phone cameras, and sent us these entries. It was a way of doing 2 things. One is building an archive of stories that are real, instead of having just movie stars come and do ads in Assam, but to have real stories from real villages. Also, for us to create consciousness in the villages itself. Can we play the video, please?
या खीरा आप खाइए। थैंक यू। मेरा नाम श्रींग पेमा और हम लोग किसान वाला है, खेती करके खाता है। ये वाला जो पूरा पकने दे के तब खाना है, ऐसे थोड़ा पीला हो गया बोल के खाने से तो पूरा जीभ में लगता है। हम लोग का गांव है थेम्बांग से 2 किलोमीटर आगे। 19-20 साल करीब हो गया यहाँ बगान करके, लेकिन हम लोग तो मैं डेली यहाँ बैठने नहीं सकता है। घर जाके फिर इधर उधर घर में भी काम होता है, बस्ती में भी खेती करता है, तो इधर उधर आना जाना करने में तो आधा तो पूरा सब जानवर लेके चला जाता है, कुछ नहीं बचता है। घर में भी मेरा आसपास का खेती में थोड़ा भी केमिकल लगने नहीं दिया, यूरिया डीएपी यूरिया बोलने वाला कुछ भी नहीं लगाया। जितना अच्छा होता है होने देता है और कम होता है होने देता है। लोग का बस्ती में तो बस्ती का घर का सामने में तो गोबर भी इतना ज़्यादा लेने नहीं सकता है। गोबर तो यहाँ संगजिलिंग में होता है, गाय यहाँ रखता है तो, और वहाँ तो ज़्यादा जंगल का पत्ता लेके पत्ता सोरा के वही लगा के साल में 2 बार, एक बार गेहूँ उगाता है, एक बार मकई उगाता है। मकई का साथ में बीन्स, सोयाबीन, सब कुछ। राजमा खेती और फापर खेती, खीरा, ये सब कुछ लगाता है। तो परसिमम लगाया, जो जहाँ कुछ भी पुली मिला तो सब लेके लगा दिया। परसिमम ठीक हो रहा है और की भी अच्छा हो रहा है, और मेरा बागान राजमा अच्छा होता है। और तो मेरा पास गैस कोई टूरिस्ट लोग आने से भी बाजार से कुछ नहीं लेता, बाजार से लेता है तेल, ऑयली हम लोग यहाँ नहीं बनता ना। और मसूर दाल थोड़ा बहुत यूज़ करने से मसूर दाल और हल्दी कभी तो खुद भी बनाता है, कभी बाहर से भी लेता है। और सब मेरा घर से उड़द दाल, राजमा दाल, बीन्स का दाल वही खिलाता है, मटर का दाल, मटर, ये सब गैस को भी सब अपना ऑर्गेनिक खिलाता है।
बढ़िया।
मिर्चा हो, मरवा हो, मकई हो, मेरा सब ऑर्गेनिक है। दिखने में कितना सुंदर है ना, चलता ग्रीन है ना। कैसे
This entry won the runners-up year before. And now see, when I show you this video, don't you want to go and eat in a house now? Yeah. So these, I think, for a curational to keep the story very real is very important. You know, in an age of a lot of selfies and like we get a lot of requests like I want to be in Cherrapunji at a time of sunset with this dress. It may happen, it may not happen, but that's not the story we want to tell. Because that is a popular demand. We want to tell you stories that are real from there and be a part of it. So this is the kind of experience you get when you travel with us. Are there any more videos or are we done? No? Only one video. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I have a whole link of videos. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to share. Our case study reports are also there. Okay, so if anybody's interested, please do reach out to me. Thank you.